I call a meeting of the City Commission to order for October 22nd. Before we say the Pledge of Allegiance, I just want to tell everybody, I am a mask wearer. I can't wear it and read at the same time, so I won't be wearing it tonight. And I am filling in for Mayor McNay in her absence. Now will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving on to the public input portion of the meeting, is there anyone out there that wants to come forward and talk about anything? All right, I'll close the public input portion of the meeting and move on to a proclamation. Could I have Sheena Nelson, Giselle Mars, and Luann Collier join me up front? Right down that exit. And I'm going to keep a little distance. They need it.
Yeah, it's okay. Face it.
Okay.
The cameras will get you.
All right. This is from the Office of the Mayor, City of Pittsburgh, Kansas. Proclamation. Whereas domestic violence is widespread, preventable public health problem impacting all demographics Kansas and Kansas communities and residents of Pittsburgh, and whereas relationships are often counted as life's greatest treasures, and tragically, many are tarnished by one person's entitlement to power and control over the other, resulting in violence and fear. And whereas domestic violence abusers violate an individual's privacy, dignity, security, and humanity with their intentional, systematic use of financial, psychological, sexual, physical, and coercive control and abuse. Whereas the Center for Disease Control and Prevention reports that about 1 in 3, 36.4% American women, and 1 in 3, 33.3 American men experienced contact, sexual violence, physical violence, and or stalking by an intimate partner during their lifetime. And yet only 1 in 4, 24% of American women, and 1 in 10, 10.6% of American men experienced domestic violence and also reported some form of related impact from inflictions. And whereas the United States Department of Justice reports domestic violence, homicides comprise 14% of all homicides in the United States, and that women are more than twice as likely as men to be killed by an intimate partner. And the Kansas Bureau of Investigation reports that domestic violence homicides were 25.3% of all homicides in Kansas in 2018. And whereas in Kansas during 2018, a domestic violence arrest was made by law enforcement every 43 minutes, and a domestic violence abuser committed a violent act reported to law enforcement every 21 minutes, and a domestic violence abuser murdered another person every 9 days. Whereas members of the City of Pittsburgh governing body recognizes this violence is inconsistent with the Pittsburgh values and cannot be tolerated. Therefore, now, I, Chuck Munsell, President of the Board of Commissions for the City of Pittsburgh, Kansas, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2020 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month and call this observance to the attention of all Pittsburgh citizens. Would you like to say a few things?
Yes. Thank you very much, and thank you to the city. We really appreciate that you consider and think about Domestic Violence Awareness Month. That helps our clients and everyone in the community understand more about it and realize that they can reach out to Safe House and Catholic Charities Safe Project for help, and that the community supports them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, ladies.
Moving on to consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
I'd like to remove item B, baby.
B? Any other items? On the consent agenda tonight, item A is approved October 13th, 2020 City Commission meeting minutes. Item B, approval of staff recommendation to adopt ordinance number G 1314, annexing land into the limits and boundary of the city of Pittsburgh pursuant to KSA 1252A7 as amended, and authorize the President of the Board to sign the ordinance on behalf of the city. And item C, approval of appropriation ordinance for the period ending October 27, 2020, subject to the release of HUD expenditures where funds are received. Excluding item B, roll call vote on consent agenda item A and item C.
First need a motion.
A motion.
Motion to-
A motion. Is there a motion for a roll call?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded.
Brooks?
Yes.
Fields?
Yes.
Munsell?
Yes.
O'Brien?
Yes.
Item B. Approval of staff recommendation to adopt ordinance number G 1314, annexing land into the limits and boundaries of the city of Pittsburgh, Kansas, pursuant to KSA 1252A7, as amended, and authorize the President of the Board to sign the ordinance on behalf of the city.
I just have a question. Is this the annexation we talked about last meeting, Barone's, or is this a
Yes,
different?
it is,
Okay.
the same one.
That's all. Do we have any idea what they plan to do with it?
No, they haven't approached us anything. We've had several folks in the past talk to us about trying to develop property in that area there, but we don't have anything specific at this point in time.
Jim said he's just going to farm it for now, as it's been for the last few years.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. If there's no other questions, I move approval of item B.
Second.
All in favor of approving item B, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same side. Special presentation. Strengthening People and Revitalizing Kansas Spark Program. 3rd District State Representative Monica Mernan will provide information regarding the Strengthening People and Revitalization Kansas program.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Commissioners
Monica.
and staff. Good to see all of you. I wanted to just visit with you for a few minutes tonight to bring you up to date. I know it's been in the paper a bit, but bring you up to date on quite a bit of good news that's been happening as it relates to a really bad situation we've been in. So the state of Kansas received a lot of money, $12 billion in the Coronavirus Relief Fund. And that happened back in, the beginning part of the pandemic. And the state of Kansas basically divided those dollars into 3 rounds of funding. It has slowly rolled out, but it feels really fast, because what has happened in the state of Kansas is there has been, as these chunks of money have come out, and additional information has been provided by the federal government. One of the things that we have found is, in the absolute necessity of being transparent in the money and also being sure that the money is being spent as intended by the federal government, that is easier said than done. It's a very complicated system. So what I want to share with you tonight is a bit about the system, and then also how it has directly impacted the city of Pittsburgh. So just really quickly, we have 69 days left to spend the coronavirus relief funding in the state of Kansas. All funds need to be expended by December the 30th. In Kansas, we have, under the Office of the Governor, we have an Office of Recovery. That was put into play back in March and April. The Office of Recovery serves multiple functions in the state of Kansas. One is they're interpreting all the information from the federal government. 2 is they're responsible for getting the dollars out. And 3, they're responsible for turning around and reporting back to the feds, all while gaining a lot of community input. So in the state of Kansas, there is a SPARK committee, which is what the acronym for the group that you read about is. The there is $1.25 billion that the Office of Recovery really had some say in on how to use. Those dollars went out in 3 rounds. The first round was $400 million to counties. In Crawford County, we received $7.8 million and a little bit of change. That dollar amount was formulated on basically a math problem that included population, it included active COVID cases, a lot of different things. The 3 county commissioners, the county commission as a whole, are responsible for the distribution of those dollars. Crawford County commissioners have done a really nice job in ensuring that they got the word out about the dollars, but also were being accountable for those dollars and using them for the intended purposes. The major intended purpose is to mitigate the negative impact of COVID-19. Now that's pretty big. That's a pretty big purpose and can be defined a lot of ways. And believe you me, there are lots of pages of definitions of how that is defined. So in Crawford County, those funds have been dispersed. Of the 7.8 and some change, all but maybe less than $100,000 have been expended by the county commission and are out in Crawford County. Of those dollars, just quite simple math, the majority of them are in the city of Pittsburgh somehow, either by supporting small business grants, nonprofit grants that were based on a formula that was derived from the number of full-time employees and part-time employees they had. There was also $750,000 given to the university for safe reopening practices. There was an additional set-aside pot for healthcare. The good news in Crawford County is the commission saw to it that it wasn't just our big healthcare providers, so like Ascension Via Christi, but our smaller healthcare providers who could participate in that. Our nursing homes, assisted livings, those kind of places. And then there were several other designated pots. But my point in telling you that is that the city of Pittsburgh itself was a participant in that process, as were a few other municipalities. But more importantly, the work that had been done in the city of Pittsburgh by all of you helped people be quick to apply for those dollars because they were ready. They knew the situation and they were ready to apply, and they were awarded those. So that process right now is at the point where applicants have received their dollars and now they're reporting on those dollars. Round 2 of the Spark funds at the state level came in at about $314 million, and that really went for public health, economic development, and the idea of connectivity. So once again, the city of Pittsburgh stood out because they were ready and had been collaborating and talking. And while our city was, our city not as in capital C, but in the city limits of Pittsburgh, we did receive some public health dollars and some of the other economic development dollars. The big winner is the great work that has been happening under the leadership of Jay Byers and Dr. Brad Hansen from the school district in using really creative, high-tech ways to connect kids to their school who do not have connectivity. And what they're doing is amazing and isn't being done anywhere else, but I'm thinking every city and school district in the state are going to want to follow. Most recent numbers, over $1 million coming in to support that from Spark Round 2. Spark Round 3 is really focused on testing. As you've read over and over, the availability of testing, the speed of testing, the accuracy of testing. The state has really put a lot of money into their own infrastructure for that system. As we have learned through this pandemic, it's a quick civics lesson on who's responsible for public health, and the answer is all of us. Right? But the folks that have the ultimate responsibility, of course, are the state of Kansas when it comes to public health. And so they're really taking a leadership role in that testing piece. Another really interesting part of Round 3 is the idea of housing stability. Housing stability. And what does that mean? You heard early on in the pandemic, Governor Kelly had an executive order regarding evictions. And that is still in play. But what this round is doing is trying to support both the landlord and the tenant in these situations. There's a program that just rolled out. I actually helped a constituent with it the other day that actually pays the landlord if the tenant is experiencing COVID-related a situation that they can't pay their rent, up to $5,000. The idea being we want to keep people where they are in a pandemic. So that program is super easy to use, and we're really seeing a lot of results from it. The Department of Commerce has played a large role in getting these dollars out, and because the city of Pittsburgh has a great relationship with the Department of Commerce, again, the pathway was cleared and the conversations had already been had, so we could move quite quickly in that process. And so that's a quick summary of what Spark has been happening with Spark funds. The question is always, is there going to be more money? That's up to the feds at this point. This all came from a stimulus package, and there's all kinds of ideas about, yes, it'll be extended, no, it won't. Right now, in the state of Kansas, the Office of Recovery is working as if the dollars must be expended by December 30 or they will be given back. And so that's the way we're proceeding at this moment in time. And then I believe the efforts that have been made by the different agencies during this time have done a lot to build infrastructure so that even if there aren't additional stimulus dollars, at least we've improved some of the infrastructure. There continues to be some major holes in the state. One of the things I wanted to share with you about today is we continue to be concerned about the Department of Labor and the amount of requests that they have coming in. As the federal government changes the different types of programs that are available, the state of Kansas is at a serious disadvantage in that we're working off a computer program that was designed over 25 years ago. Well, closer to 45 years ago. And it's not easy to adapt. So all that you have heard from your residents about, I tried to get unemployment and I've been on the phone, those things have calmed down a little bit. But there's two things that are currently, that are still really important to our citizens. One is the additional federal dollars, and are they coming, are they not coming, those kind of things. But number two has popped up pretty significantly over the last 2 months, and that is fraud. And that is identity of folks being used to file false unemployment claims. So I get phone calls on a regular basis that say, I didn't file for unemployment, but my employer thinks I did. Or I got a letter at home saying I filed for unemployment. I didn't, I promise, I didn't. And this is just part of a nationwide problem. The Kansas Department of Labor is taking it on. There is a fraud hotline, and there's a fraud way to report that online. So I highly encourage people, if that happens to them, please go directly to the Department of Labor website and be on the lookout and watch for that. It's a new thing that's popping up, a new old thing, a new old crime, but it is specific to unemployment. So those are kind of some of the highlights of what's happening with the state dollars. Even though we're not in session now, there's a lot of activity going on. So thanks for letting me share that with you, and then also kudos to you and all of the staff for being ready to respond and understanding your community so that you could best ask for assistance. So I'd be happy to try to answer any questions.
I have a couple, Monica, and I want to thank you for the work you did in the committee on getting this money where it needs to go. One question is, you talked about the city of Pittsburgh, and that's great, but all the cities in Crawford County, did they have representation on this committee, and were they able to benefit from these funds also?
So the committee I was referring to was this, it's a state level committee. So the recovery committee is what they're called. But that is made up of appointees from the governor's office. And so they were there. As for the county funds in round one, yes, there was a huge effort made to ensure all the other municipalities were involved, and then also to make sure all the school districts were involved, and even to the point of, the idea of how do we include the interlocal over here that's technically a school district but doesn't have any kids. And so that was, and then what we found were townships, fire departments, those kind of folks, they got involved too. So the listing that came out from the county of where the funds went, it's really a nice representation of Crawford County. It really is.
Good deal. And my next question on the testing.
Yeah.
Who does that in Crawford County, and
Yeah,
where the
so,
people go?
there's a really, I hope you, I hope you'll be glad to know there is a really nice collaborative group of healthcare providers who, ever since the pandemic started, are on the phone together at 8 o'clock every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning. And it's folks who, community health, the hospital, Girard Medical, nursing homes, the health department is on there. Dr. Cousins from Urgent Care has been a great partner in that. And it really ended up, PSU, it really ended up being people who do the testing mostly. And it has turned out to be a great collaborative group. What I hear on those calls, I get on probably, twice a week. What I hear on those calls is Community Health Center of Southeast Kansas is probably the biggest tester, right? They're probably the in and out testing site. But the hospital is doing a lot of testing, especially with pre-op and emergency room, both of our hospitals. The health department does a significant number, and because there's multiple kinds of tests, some people want the rapid test. Dr. Cousins is doing that. But and PSU, the great thing is they're all working together and they're sharing their data. And at the point in time where even supplies were in question, they were sharing supplies and who has this and who has that. I mean, just a great bunch of people. The same thing as we reach some critical points in our hospitalization rates, you're hearing, okay, can you take this? Can you do this? And that's the way it should be. But overall, for the actual testing, it's a wide variety. But the good news is I feel really good about, in our county, we're very lucky that we employ what are called contact tracing nurses or epidemiology nurses. Many counties, I have learned during this process, do not. So we can control our data better and our phone calling of people better than in most situations, which helps us adapt. So, and then of course, under the leadership of Dr. Stebbins and Dr. Bean, they've really honed that system in from testing to follow-up and care.
So early on, testing supplies were hard to come by.
Yeah, they still are.
They still are?
Yeah, they still are. Machines are still hard, different supplies are, but it seems a little smoother. There was a critical juncture where everybody was depending on the state emergency management system, and that was pretty tough. It's better than it was, but it's not full scale, everybody, anywhere, anytime. Those things change day to day.
Thanks.
Monica, I really appreciate this update. You've done a great job letting us know what's going on with this. I have a question. You talk about the money needs to be spent by December the 31st. When does the reporting?
January 6th.
That's quickly.
Fast.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so this is, and our county has done a great job in getting it out and back in a quick manner. I mean, it doesn't sound like it's difficult, but it is. I encourage you to look at, if you just Google KS COVID-19, there's a great website. It's the Office of Recovery, has all kinds of great information on how these billions of dollars have been spent.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Monica? Once again, Monica, thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your meeting. Good to see all of you. Thanks.
Next item, consider the following. Ordinance number S-1074. Consider approval of ordinance number S-1074, which would become effective on March 31st, 2021, repealing ordinance number S-1048 of the City of Pittsburgh, which levies an additional 0.25% retail sales tax within the City of Pittsburgh for 5 years, effective October 1st, 2017.
Good evening, Mr. President and Commissioners. As you recall, you all made a promise to the citizens on this street sales tax that if we pass this new street sales tax for 10 years, that the existing street sales tax would be repealed. And that's what ordinance S-1074 is doing here. It will repeal the street sales tax that is in effect until September 30th of 2022, I believe it is. And this will kill it early. It will repeal it as of March 31st of 2021. which is the sunset date for the original street sales tax. So those both will go off, and the new one will take its place on April 1st. The rate of 0.5% will remain the same as it is now. And this is just a thing to make it all legal with the state and the Attorney General's office and everything. And the staff will get with the Kansas Department of Revenue to get all the details worked out to get this in place in time.
Anyone have questions for Jamie? No, very clear. Seeing none, is there a motion to approve? Moved by Larry, second by Patrick. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same
All
sign.
right, thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Ordinance number S 1075, consider approval of ordinance number S 1075, granting an ad valorem tax exemption to Ralston LP pursuant to City of Pittsburgh policies and procedures adopted November 10th, 1987, as authorized by Section 13, Article 11 of the Constitution of the State of Kansas. All right, Blake.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, members of the commission. This is just a follow-up to the property tax exemption that you approved earlier in the year. Rattleson is Apex Stages. This is for their new facility in the Airport Industrial Park. It was approved earlier this year, but Mr. Allison needs a formal ordinance before he can submit that to the state for final approval. So it's just a follow-up to that tax abatement that was approved earlier in the year.
Are there any questions for Blake?
If there's no questions, I move approval.
I'll second it. Been moved by Patrick, seconded by me. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Blake. Non-agenda reports and requests.
We just have one. We have a utility agreement. Matt's going to walk you through it.
Evening, Mr. President, Commissioners. We were approached by KDOT concerning the relocation of our water line at the 126 bridge west of 69, the Riddell Bridge or Holland Dillon, out there that they're working on. They've had a change to their scope that extends the not the bridge abutment, but the right of way on that side, and they're extending that out. And so they need us to lower and relocate our water line in that area. So we put together a proposal utilizing Riddell's directional drilling to drill underneath the flow line of the creek, and we'll use that lump sum price, and we'll provide the parts and materials. Put that together, and we submitted them a proposal, and they came back with a lump sum agreement for us to execute. And so what we're asking for tonight is the approval to execute this agreement with KDOT and relocate the water line for that bridge project. And KDOT will be funding this project.
What was the price of that?
31,215. $31,215.60.
So city employees will do the work and KDOT will?
Actually, city employees will assist with Riddell construction. Riddell
Okay.
will actually drill the line for us and put that in, and then we'll assist with pushing everything together and putting in the valves, and we'll purchase the valves.
Any other questions for Matt? The motion for approval.
Second.
Moved by Larry, seconded by Cheryl. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
That's all we have.
Darren, I talked to you a little bit earlier before the meeting. I've been asked several questions about the 4th Street overpass. Could you explain what that entails?
So the 4th Street overpass.
Automatically.
So hang on a minute.
Best segue ever.
All right. Whoever.
So the other 126 bridge project at 4th Street at Schlanger Park there, that is a KDOT project. Originally it had a 250-day working contract whenever it was originally put out to bid. I know that they've got into some electrical relocation and railroad easement deals, and I'm not sure where they stand, but the bridge will be built in the same That bridge was actually built at the same time the Riddell Bridge was, they're same construction. That project will be similar in nature in the fact that they'll reduce those layings down. It will stay open during the entirety of the construction, but they've got to build out the south part, get that bridge up in place, and then demo the existing and make the transition through traffic. It'll be a two-lane bridge. It will have a 10-foot walking trail on the north side, and it should be a real nice project when it's done.
So that bridge will be completed and traffic will be switched over to that, and then the other one.
They'll step it over. They'll pull the half together and they'll reduce the lane size down as they build on in the same nature that they did the Riddell Bridge.
There's 2 lanes with a 10-foot walking.
Yep.
And another question.
I think it's 52 feet wide, I believe. Correct? Yeah, 52 foot wide.
Just the supports for the roadway is obviously taller. I've been asked about that. Is there any reason why it has to be?
Yeah, and they're flattening some of that out. I mean, it's gotten some design, but they've went through all that. And I think it still has to carry 2 trains through it. Is their overall goal is to keep the possibility for 2 rails to go through there.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep.
You said that it was 250 days initially, and you intimated that it's changed.
I do not know where they stand on working days right now, what they've allowed and what they haven't. I do know that there was some relocation concerning we had to relocate some of our water line for some of that work, and we may still, depending on, there's some lines that the depth wasn't confirmed that we may get into, but I know that there was some electrical transmission lines that crossed the railway and where they lay, in fact, for, crane reaches and picks and those type of things.
So you imagine the end of 2021 or 22
Oh,
to be
21.
complete,
21, yeah.
you think?
Yeah. Well, I hope. I hope, but I really don't know where they're at on working days or not. I know that's what the original contract was.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Good job. That's all I had.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded twice. All in favor of adjourn?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye. We are adjourned.